let's get started at looking at what comes in issue 21, and it's time to give the Triceratops its horns. That sounds wrong. How am I going to avoid horn jokes?
Alpha, the Falcon is back. Prepare for him a partner with attitude.
Hello and welcome to the next episode of Build the Megazord, where we are looking at issue 21 this time, and we are continuing building the head of the fantastic Triceratops. I don't have much to say this week, to be honest. It's quite a long video anyway, as we're looking at potential mods and stuff like that. We'll get onto it. But yeah, I just want to say happy National Power Rangers Day. 29 years since the first ever episode aired, believe it or not. And also for those who are attending the Power Morphicon convention, I'm very jealous. I will get there one day, but it is the other side of the world for me. But have a great time, spend loads of money on lots of memorabilia. Very jealous that you're meeting Captain Marvelous, for those that are. But enough waffling from me. Let's get started by looking at the parts that come in issue 21, and of course they are the iconic Triceratops horns here. Now, I've always had a question since we started this build: will the Triceratops horns come with a chain like the SOC Megazord and like we see in the show? They're attached with chains and then they fire this electric current that electrocutes enemies and stuff like that. And the answer is yes. Believe it or not, you do get chains with this Triceratops, and it's fantastic. It is brilliant. Now, it is fantastic that we have them, but one thing I will say is that they are quite short. I think it will become more apparent when we attach it to the Triceratops head itself, but they are quite short chains. But the fact that they has chains at all is pretty cool. And I'm jumping ahead here a bit, but the reason that they're so short is because when they're all furled up, they will need to sit here in these kind of chain buckets. If I just feed that in there, you see that that chain bucket is completely full. So unless someone is willing to mod bigger chain buckets for the Triceratops, I'm looking at you, Mike Lane, I'm looking at you, Model Mods. I know that the Megazord isn't on your radar because it's not yet available anywhere else. But if you want, but please can you consider making kind of mods for the Triceratops? I really am jumping all over the place, but we'll put the chain buckets into the head like that, and there is space, all of this space, to have more chain buckets, bigger chain buckets installed. So if anyone's willing to mod that to get bigger chain buckets, and then we can have a much longer Triceratops chain, that will be fantastic. And just in case that happens, whenever it happens, I'm not going to be gluing anything down on this Triceratops head, because that is one mod I would pay loads of good money for. And if it ever happens in the future, I want to be able to take my Triceratops apart to make sure that that happens. So if that ever happens, I look forward to that happening. But let's not reminisce. Let's not look ahead to the future. Let's get started by piecing these horns together. So what we'll need to do is we need to get a chain first. Now the chain has two connectors. We've got this bigger circle here. It's also got the smaller circle on the other end here. So you can see the size difference. The bigger circle just loops around this peg here like that. And then we get the corresponding part of the horn and we just push them together. No glue required. I mean, if you want to glue them in, you can, but of course I'm not going to. Oh, they are quite tight. I really don't want to break these. I'm just going to do this off camera for both, actually. So let me just do the same again. Do the big hoop around the inside of the peg there. And then we just line the peg up. Oh, this one went together really nicely. So that is how they go together. And there is, actually it's not that short. I don't know what I'm talking about. Yeah, so there's one of the horns, and surely then this one should just clip into place. I'm going to do this off camera, be right back. Okay, I have the horns all on there, but they don't seem to want to sit together neatly on this one. That's very hard to see, but they don't fully close. It's still got some way to close there. And it does say something in the instructions. Something is circled there for the tip of these horns, but I don't know what it says. So maybe it is saying attach glue. And if it does, I'm not going to in case this mod comes to light. So there we go. And you know, it's hardly noticeable and I'll sort it out at some point. But there are the horns with the chains all done. So actually I'm just going to put them aside just for the moment. And I'm going to bring back the Triceratops head main and zoom in because we're getting into really fine details here. And we're focusing on this part here, which is obviously where the horns are going to go. So you see you've got two screw holes there. This top screw hole is where we're going to screw this peg into. So this is the chain bucket. Get the wire out the way and then it will just line up there with a screw through there. And then you do the exact same thing with this screw bucket. Oh, we have to do this. Oh no, there we go. So eventually it will look like that. So I'm just going to go ahead and screw these together now. I just had to do this off camera because it's not the easiest screw, this one, because there's no kind of guide pegs or anything like that. And you get real close to the edge and you can see I've taken off some of the paint on either side just by screwing it down. You can see more on this side. See, I've just kind of scuffed it just there. So that is quite a tight screw, but they're in now, so that's good. Whew, don't have to worry about that again. Oh, well, until I unscrew it for the mod, if that ever happens. The next piece we need to get is this piece here, and we'll just place that on there. And of course, these are the guide rails for the horns, and I had it upside down. So yeah, so the guide rails for the horns there, and then you see we've got three holes at the bottom here. The two outside holes will match up with these holes there to screw in place, I think. I'm not sure what's happening here. Be right back. Yeah, sorry, I had the piece the wrong way around. So ignore what I just said. These bottom two holes now, as I have the piece the right way around, they match with these two holes there. It'll just sit in there like that. So I'm just going to go ahead and screw those down as well. There we go, that's screwed in. Zoom out a bit. What I found is that because it was just this screw holding it in, and the mouth of course, I had to kind of push the head together to kind of make the holes align, which is why I was on and off camera quite a bit. But yeah, so that is all screwed in, and when those holes align you get the proper shape of the Triceratops and everything like that. So that is very, very nice indeed. So now it comes to attaching these horns to the rest of the head. Now how this is done is if we flip the chain around and we get the smaller hole here, there's actually a screw hole there, just there, which you'll need to align the small hole of the chain on and then screw it down with a special screw that comes in this issue, which has got a flat large rim just there to hold it in place. Now I am going to do this off camera because it is going to be quite fiddly, so be right back. Okay, now that was interesting to do. I've got a top tip here. Do not over screw these parts because that little tiny thin bit of metal will snap if you over tighten it. I snapped it for this horn, but luckily you managed to kind of attach it again. I'm not going to be pulling on these hard anyway. So yeah, very, very delicate work there. Just be very, very careful. And then the final piece that we need to attach is just this part here to hold everything in place and to guide everything in. And maybe get the chains out of the way. Let's get the chains in the buckets. There's one, there's two, hold them up. I gotta get the wires in there, chains in even. Okay, is that in place? Not quite. Cool, this was getting a bit fiddly now. Maybe I'm just not lining it up right. I'm just going to look at this off camera, be right back. Okay, it's a very, very tight fit, that piece, because it's got like, it's got parts here that really need to make sure that they line up correctly. Isn't necessarily a bad thing, but you just got to make sure that it is in correctly. And then of course, as you can see, as I'm just doing now, you just screw it down to hold it all in place. There we go. And then, sorry, that's slightly off camera. And then let's feed these wires in and attach one Triceratops horn, and then and then feed this. Keep going on wires. Feed this chain in and attach that Triceratops horn. Oh, that's quite loose. They are quite loose. Are they meant to be that loose? Okay, no. There we go. Okay, yeah, that one is quite loose. I may have to look at that off camera. But before I close this video, let's just have like a size comparison on the chains. So this is the Altair Megazord, obviously. And there we have the chains of the Triceratops and its horns there. Let's just bring in the SoC one. And yeah, comparatively, the chains, well, it's about double the length on the Altair one. As you can see, if I get it back so it's lined up here, to the end of the horn is pretty much that length of the chain. So as it's double the size, it should be double the length. But you know, the fact that we have the chains is pretty awesome. It's not a feature I use much on my SoC one anyway, but I do love the fact that they have it, and I love the fact that they have them in black. I really like the black chains. I think that adds quite a lot to the build. So let's just put them away in the chain bucket. There's one. Put this away in the chain bucket. And there's a loose horn too. I wonder if it's because I've got chains going around the outside. I don't really know. I'll sort this off camera, ready for next time. But that being said, there's the Triceratops with his two horns in place. And that does look great, even if they're slightly skew-if. But that's okay, it's more natural for a Triceratops to have skew-if horns. Who knows? And I don't think I actually showed this last week. The mouth does open and close there. I can't remember whether I did, but if I did or didn't, you just saw it now. So that's the end of the video. I really hope you enjoyed it. Even though this one has been frustrating, I'm still really loving this build, and the fact that I'm building the Triceratops is awesome. I will just do a shout out to Mike Lane Mods and Model Mods. I'm willing to send the Triceratops head to you so that you can make giant chain buckets for it. I would love that. Next week we're looking at more Triceratops head, of course. So until then guys, take care. Bye bye.